Right, I was born in New Rochelle, New York, and I was a very active kid. I got a lot of trouble at school. I always liked to stand outside of school when I was young and pick a fight. And I was very good in boxing. I was only about 5'5", so I did a lot of cross-country running and tennis and wrestling and boxing at school. My father was born in Hungary, and he had an amazing tale. He was an orphan. His mother and father died when they were quite young, and he was quite young. He went out in the country by himself, and he was a very good jeweler. His trade was making jewelry. So he went out, and he got on a boat with about $25 and went across and went to New York. And he went to a little shop that made jewelry, and they gave him a job, and he started making chains there. And he met my mother, who was his daughter, and he married her, and they had a very good family. She was very pretty. And he went on, he became Jacques Kreisler Jewelry. Did you ever hear watch bands? Did you ever hear the expansion watch band? He invented the expansion. And I wore this on all my missions. I went up to 70 degrees below zero, and it still works. And he was very, very inventive. He invented a lot of things. He decided after he got to the United States to set up a jewelry company. So he set up something called Kreisler Manufacturing. He made all kinds of ladies' jewelry and men's jewelry. And finally, when the war came, he set up something called an industrial division because they needed someone to be able to solder things very carefully for the engines. And having the jewelry, they had to solder things very carefully. So he set up that industrial division. So I worked for him for quite a while, and he used to send me, instead of summer when the kids were playing, he had me go to his factory and go to the tool room and learn all about the tools and sweep the floor. And I wasn't very happy. So one day I rode to a ranch out in Arapine, Arizona. I loved horses. So I went there and I broke in horses and drove horses from that town to a nearby town. I went to Lafayette College studying industrial engineering, and I had a good roommate, and the roommate and I decided to take off one day to Yankee Stadium to watch the Giants playing football. So we went down there from college, and lo and behold, when we were there, it was a great game, by the way, and there was an announcement, attention, attention, Pearl Harbor was just bombed by the Japanese. Will all those in the service please report to their bases, and anyone that wants to join the service, go to the nearest recruiting place. So my partner and I decided to join the Air Corps together. So we joined, and the names were both, mine was KR, Kreisler, his was Kramer, KR. So we thought whatever they send us together. So instead of doing that, they sent me to San Antonio, Texas, and they sent him to California. So we got separated. He flew B-25s, and I was in B-17s. So anyway, he didn't have quite the experience I did. I had a lot of combat experience. I was trained to be a pilot. Went to gunnery school, and then because so many bombardiers were being killed, they sent me to the bombardier school, and bombardier also was a combination of navigation. So I had gunnery wings, I had pilot wings, I had navigator wings, and bombardier wings. And on top of that, I don't think they could have sent me any other place. I had about a 93 average every place, and on top of that, they descended, I just couldn't believe it, to send us to that college, Wittenberg College, because they wanted to wash a lot of the guys out so they wouldn't go through training. And I went through there pretty quickly, and a lot of the guys got washed out. But anyway, I had a lot of fun in the service. I don't think I'd go through it again though. And something very interesting. They sent me to Foggia, where they sent us to our first base. Then they transferred me for basic training in Orlando. When I went to Orlando, that was great. I didn't know where my folks were because when I joined the Air Corps, they told me to go to Pennsylvania Station and leave. My folks didn't know where I went, and they were going on a cruise, so I had no idea where they were. So anyway, when I was in Orlando, I went to the most beautiful hotel, and I said, they must have made a mistake coming out of the olive groves where they sent us. They sent us to that beautiful hotel, and I finally found out that there were so many guys after Pearl Harbor that got in the service that they made arrangements with the Miami hotel owners to make room for the service guys. So anyway, I went in that beautiful hotel, and it was like heaven. They had beds with mattresses, and we had bathrooms we could go to. We went down to eat. They served us at the table, and dinners, and they had waitresses and everything. I couldn't believe that we were living like that in the service. So finally I decided to find out where my folks were. I had no idea, and they didn't know where I was. So anyway, I got the number from my sister. I called her up, and she told me where my folks were. So I called her on the phone, and my mom said, hello, where are you? I said, I'm in Miami. I said to her, where are you? She said, I'm in Miami. She said, well, where are you in Miami? I said, I really don't know. I have to go look at the name of the hotel from the towel. I just got in the hotel. I didn't know what it was. So I got the name of the hotel. She said, you know where you are? I said, no idea. She says, you're in the hotel next to me. That was the luckiest thing I ever did. At basic training, they sent us to the golf courses to take exercises, and then they gave us lectures. And I went and had lunch with my folks every day, and I went to the beach in front of their hotel. I went swimming. There were a lot of cute chicks there, and that was really tough basic training. That's the toughest training I ever had. But that was the funniest thing, that she could have been on a cruise, she could have been in Canada, and she was in the hotel next to me. If that wasn't destiny, I don't know what was. Well, out of basic training, flying on one of our missions, our guns we could use to defend ourselves. And did you ever hear the Talladega black pilots? Well, they had what they called the Talladega black pilots, but they flew P-51s, and their famous trick was to fly up in front of the sun, so when you look up you couldn't see them. And what they did, they were up there. Whenever they looked down and they saw any problems, they dove down. And luckily, when we were flying by on the ground and our guns had frozen up after the Alps, we couldn't defend it. The Germans started shooting at us, and they saw the Germans shooting at us, and we couldn't shoot back. So they drove down and shot the Germans away. There again, that was destiny. They saved our necks. I remember another time we were flying when our guns couldn't work, and the Germans were hitting a squadron, going to come and hit us, but they hit the squadron in back of us, fortunately, because our guns didn't work. So we were saved because they hit the squadron in back of us. So we were lucky a lot of times. On one of my flights, when I was flying, I had half my wing of the plane shot off, and I was past the point of no return. I couldn't go back to my base. So I heard we were briefed in the morning that if we had to go someplace, we should go to Czechoslovakia, where the partisans had cleared up part of the field in case any of our planes got in trouble. And when we got to the field there, fortunately they knew we had 13 50 caliber guns, so we were able to land in that field, which was next to a German airfield. And they didn't come out because they knew we could slaughter them with our guns. So I got out like a jerk to look around because we were near a German airfield. and someone started shooting me from the bushes. I figured it had to be a German, and I took out my .45. Destiny was with me again. I didn't even see him. I shot at the bushes, and a body came out. That was a dead German. I got the Distinguished Flying Cross for putting out a fire in the bomb bay. Well, I didn't have much choice. As a bombardier, that was my job. And if I didn't put that fire out, the bombs could have exploded, the plane could have exploded. We all would have been killed. So I had to go out there. Unfortunately, the bombs were too close to the side of the plane. I couldn't wear my parachute. So I had to go there without a parachute and and I had to take the parachute off and go in there and detach the bombs. They were starting to shoot anti-aircraft in there with the bullets. It was smoking and it was fiery, and I was very lucky. I sort of was losing my breath. So I finally went back to the beginning of the bomb bay where a guy held an oxygen bottle, and I was able to keep from collapsing by inhaling that oxygen bottle. And I went back in the bomb bay and I detached, unhooked the fragmentation bombs, and I took the fuses out of the explosive bombs without any problem. It was about 10,000 feet above the water, and they couldn't shut the bomb bays. I wasn't happy. They couldn't shut the doors. The doors had been hit by anti-aircraft, and they usually could wide them up, but they couldn't wide them up. So I was in the bomb bay, and if there was a gust of wind, I had nothing to hold on to. I would have fallen through without a parachute. But then again, destiny was with me. There was no gust of wind. They wanted to send us and reassign us and send us to Japan. And we had finished 36 missions flying over Germany. So 4 flying fortresses and myself decided we're not going to fly over Japan and have 36 more missions. So we all went AWOL. Listen to this. We went AWOL. We figured we could have been thrown in jail and all our awards taken away. We didn't know what could happen. So we all decided we'd take the chance that destiny would rescue us. So we all left, and we flew from Italy to Casablanca in Africa, because we wanted to see what what Casablanca was like. We decided as long as we were going to do that, and they could have thrown us to jail, we were going to take some trips. So we took a trip to Casablanca, and I went through there, and I brought some. I was too innocent. I brought Chanel No. 7 perfume. When I got home, it was probably pee. But anyway, when we left Casablanca, we went to an hotel in Brazil, because we wanted to see Brazil. So we had a lot of fun at Casablanca and at Brazil. And then from Brazil, we decided we better go to Cuba. So we went to Cuba, which wasn't too far away. And we went to Cuba, and I don't know how we did it. We always managed to get in. Cuba didn't let planes in, but I don't know how we got in. I didn't pay attention. And after we took our little vacation, then we went to Orlando. And on halfway to Orlando, when we were listening to the radio, we heard that Truman dropped the atomic bomb over Japan, and the war in Japan was over while we were crossing the Atlantic. And when we got to Orlando, they said, "We don't need you guys, the war's over." So there again, destiny saved our necks. If Truman hadn't dropped the atomic bomb, they would have put us in jail and God knows what else. So all along, destiny really was on my side. When the war was over, I got out, and as I said, I got a piggyback on a plane and went to LaGuardia Field and took a bus home. And after I got home, I decided to start a construction company. So I built about 25 schools and added the addition to about 25 hospitals. So I had quite a big construction company. And first, before I made the construction company, I started a swimming pool company, because when I came back from the service, I felt that was the big thing. everyone liked pools. So I built a swimming pool company. And when I built it, I found out that the customers called us so often because they wanted the pool repaired. They thought it was leaking. They wanted the engine fixed, the pumps fixed, and we felt we weren't we were spending too much time on the pools. So we finally sold the pool company and decided to go into construction. I went to a dance in White Plains where some friend invited me to a big golf club. I never played golf. So I went to the dance and people came. It was very well known. They came from all over the country and from even out of the country. So I went to that dance and I saw this gal sitting in the bleachers and she looked very pretty. So I said, that's the kind of gal I'd like to marry. So I never bothered her finding her name or address or a telephone number. I had no picture of her, nothing. And then one day I said to myself, gee, I'd like to find that gal. My sister, my older sister, had contributed to a big organization. And they sent her a ticket to go to a big dance. It was a place near our house in New York. So she said, I'm too old to go to this dance. Would you like to go? It was only a half an hour from my house. So I said, sure. Anyway, I went across the floor and 3 girls asked me to cut in. So I cut in and I got their phone numbers from all 3. And finally I decided to call up all 3. And by coincidence, one of them happened to be Nancy. So I called them up and I invited them all out to eat for lunch. And when I picked up Nancy at her apartment, she came down. I didn't know that was Nancy. Could you imagine that there 1 out of 3 million people in New York City without knowing anything about her? And she was very outgoing. So I figured she was a pretty regular gal. So I finally called her up, and I figured I took her out a couple of times. And one night I just said, what would happen if I asked her to marry me? I didn't have a ring, and I didn't prepare anything. I figured she'd say, I don't have enough time. I'd like to think about it. But I said, what would happen if I asked her to marry me? And she said, okay.